Envision that heartbreaking scene, our dim bedroom lit only by a flickering candle, shadows playing on the walls like ghosts. Giovanni's hand clasped weakly in mine, his breathing labored and shallow. "Take care of them, amore mio," he gasped, his voice a mere whisper. "You're stronger than you know, my Elena." I sobbed uncontrollably, tears falling onto his chest, begging, "Don't leave us, Giovanni. We need you here." But he slipped away quietly, like morning mist evaporating at dawn's first light, leaving me widowed at 33 with a mountain of debts piling up like storm clouds on the horizon. Come sit by me, my little one, here in this old chair that's held me through so many nights like a faithful companion, creaking softly under the weight of all the years it's witnessed. The evening light slips through the window like a gentle whisper from the past, dim and golden, casting long dancing shadows on these walls that have seen too much joy and sorrow intertwined. Feel my hands, Alex, these wrinkled fingers, veined like the ancient roots of the olive trees outside our door, twisting deep into the earth for sustenance. They're tired, yes, from holding on so tightly when everything else seemed to let go, from grasping at fleeting moments of happiness and enduring the relentless pull of hardship. My eyes. They're soft now, clouded with the mist of time, but oh, how they've cried rivers that could flood the valleys below. Look into them deeply, child. They hold stories that could fill the vast sea, tales of a life woven from threads of pain and perseverance. Tonight, as the world outside quiets down to a hush, with only the faint rustle of leaves in the breeze and the distant call of an owl marking the hour, I'll tell you my tale, not with fancy words or made-up heroes from some distant fairy book, but the raw, unvarnished truth of a life lived hard and true. It's filled with tragedies that broke me time and again, like fragile pottery shattered on stone, sacrifices that mended me piecemeal with rough stitches that still ache on rainy days, and lessons carved into my soul like etchings on weathered stone, lessons that have guided me through the darkest storms. You'll feel the pain, sharp as a bitter winter wind cutting through thin clothes, but also the enduring warmth of love that never fully fades away. Like this unbreakable bond between us, you and me, in this small traditional home, where the air hangs heavy with the scent of wood smoke from the hearth and the faint aroma of yesterday's fresh baked bread, lingering like a comforting ghost. I'll start where the deepest scar begins, the one that still throbs with a fresh ache even after all these years, with how your mother, my own beloved Isabella, abandoned me. It was 5 years ago now, though in my heart it feels like both yesterday's fresh wound and a forever ago echo that never quite silences. She was my Isabella, my precious daughter, born from the ashes of love and profound loss, the flickering light I clung to desperately after so many storms had raged through my world, leaving wreckage in their wake. But life has a way of twisting us, doesn't it, child? Twisting our paths until we barely recognize ourselves in the mirror. She grew restless over time, chained down by the quiet, unchanging ways of this village, where days blend into one another like the rolling hills outside, dreaming instead of the glittering city lights and the freedoms I myself never dared to chase in my youth. One fateful rainy autumn night, when the sky wept as if it knew what was coming, she packed a single worn bag, her few simple clothes folded neatly, a handful of faded photos capturing happier times, and the delicate silver locket I had given her on her wedding day, engraved with a tiny rose to symbolize enduring beauty amid thorns. You were just a toddler then, my dear Alex, sleeping peacefully in your crib like an innocent angel, unaware of the thunder rumbling in the distance or the heartbreak unfolding mere feet away. She stood at the door, hesitating for a moment that stretched into eternity, her eyes avoiding mine as if meeting them would shatter her resolve. The rain pattered relentlessly on the tiled roof above us, like unshed tears begging to be released. "Mama," she said, her voice cracking like dry earth underfoot after a long drought. "I can't stay here any longer. This place, it suffocates me, closes in like walls too tight to breathe. Take care of little Alex for me. I'll send money when I can, I promise." I reached out instinctively, my hands, these same wrinkled ones you hold now, trembling uncontrollably as I touched her arm, feeling the warmth of her skin one last time. "Isabella, figlia mia, please think of your child. Think of us, of the family we've built from nothing." But she pulled away, gently yet firmly, her face a tormented mask of sorrow mixed with unyielding steel. "I have to go, Mama, or I'll wither here just like you did, trapped in memories and regrets." And with those cutting words hanging in the air, she stepped out into the storm, the door shutting behind her with a soft, final thud that echoed through my soul like a death knell. Oh, the pain that night! It clawed at my chest with razor-sharp talons, deeper than any wound I had ever known, tearing open old scars I thought had long since healed. I stood there in the dim light of the single lamp, frozen in place as if time itself had stopped, the rain now pounding harder as if in sympathy. It wasn't until your soft cries pierced the silence, pulling me back from the edge of despair, that I moved. I lifted you from the crib, your tiny body so warm and trusting against my suddenly cold heart, and I whispered through my own choking sobs, "We'll be all right, Piccolo. Nonna is here, and I'll never let you go." In the days that followed, she sent postcards at first, sporadic messages from Rome with its ancient ruins, then from Milan with its bustling fashion streets, each one carrying hollow promises of visits that never materialized, words that grew colder with distance. Then nothing. Silence as vast as the ocean. Abandoned, left behind like a forgotten field after the harvest, overgrown with weeds of loneliness. But in that profound abandonment, I discovered a new purpose rising from the ruins. Raising you, my sweet Alex, teaching you the unyielding value of roots that dig deep, of enduring through the tempests that life hurls our way. To truly understand why her leaving cut so deep, why it felt like the final betrayal in a life full of them, you must know where I come from, the hard soil that shaped me into the woman I am today. Let me take you back, child. Close your eyes and picture it all as I speak, like scenes unfolding from an old, flickering film projected in the gathering dusk, each frame rich with the colors of memory. I was born in 1932, right here in this very village nestled among the rolling hills of southern Italy, back when the world was a harsher place, gripped by shadows I could scarcely comprehend as a child. The Great Depression had sunk its merciless teeth into our land, and my family scratched out a meager living from the unforgiving earth day by grueling day. My father, Antonio, was a sturdy farmer with hands like leather from years of toil, his back perpetually bent as he plowed the stubborn fields that yielded so little in return for his sweat and blood. My mother, Rosa, with her own hands rough as tree bark from endless labor, baked bread from whatever scant flour we could afford, her voice rising in soft lullabies to chase away the gnawing empty bellies that plagued us all. I was their only child, a spirited girl with wild, untamed hair that caught the wind like a flag of defiance, and dreams that soared far beyond the confines of our tiny, thatched roof hut. To truly understand why her leaving cut so deep, why it felt like the final betrayal in a life full of them, you must know where I come from, the hard soil that shaped me into the woman I am today. Let me take you back, child. Close your eyes and picture it all as I speak, like scenes unfolding from an old, flickering film projected in the gathering dusk, each frame rich with the colors of memory. I was born in 1932, right here in this very village nestled among the rolling hills of southern Italy, back when the world was a harsher place, gripped by shadows I could scarcely comprehend as a child. The Great Depression had sunk its merciless teeth into our land, and my family scratched out a meager living from the unforgiving earth day by grueling day. My father, Antonio, was a sturdy farmer with hands like leather from years of toil, his back perpetually bent as he plowed the stubborn fields that yielded so little in return for his sweat and blood. My mother, Rosa, with her own hands rough as tree bark from endless labor, baked bread from whatever scant flour we could afford, her voice rising in soft lullabies to chase away the gnawing empty bellies that plagued us all. I was their only child, a spirited girl with wild, untamed hair that caught the wind like a flag of defiance, and dreams that soared far beyond the confines of our tiny, thatched roof hut. In 1940, when I was just 8, the war came crashing into our peaceful existence like a thunderbolt from a clear sky. World War II, they called it in the history books, but to us villagers, it was nothing short of hell unleashed upon the earth. Mussolini's bombastic speeches blared from the crackling radios in the town square, filling the air with promises of glory that rang hollow to our ears. Soon, soldiers in crisp uniforms marched through our narrow streets, their boots thumping in unison like a drumbeat of doom. Food became rationed to pitiful portions. Neighbors disappeared in the night, some drafted, others fleeing, and fear hung over everything like a thick fog. But the true horror arrived in 1943, during the brutal Allied invasion of Sicily, when the bombs began to fall from the heavens like divine wrath. Imagine the terror, the piercing wail of air raid sirens slicing through the night, chilling the blood in my veins as we scrambled for safety. We huddled together in the damp cellar beneath our home, my parents' arms wrapped tightly around me in a desperate shield. "Be brave, Elena," my father whispered, his voice steady despite the flicker of fear in his dark eyes, his hand stroking my hair to calm my racing heart. The ground trembled with each distant explosion, dust sifting down from the ceiling like fine snow. Then one deafening blast closer than the others, the earth shaking violently, the air filled with the acrid smell of smoke and destruction, timbers cracking like bones. When the eerie silence finally returned, I crawled out from the debris, coughing and disoriented, my small body bruised and cut, alone. The house lay in utter ruins, a chaotic pile of splintered wood and crumbled stone. My parents, They were buried under the heavy beams, their bodies still and broken, faces frozen in eternal peace. I screamed until my throat was raw and bleeding, hot tears streaming down my dust-streaked cheeks as kind neighbors pulled me away, their own faces etched with pity and horror. Orphaned at 11, the world transformed in an instant into a vast, yawning void of loneliness and despair. That loss, my child, it hollowed me out from the inside, leaving a cavern where my heart once beat freely. I was taken in by distant aunts and uncles in the village, gracious folk who meant well but had their own mouths to feed in those lean times. Their homes were crowded, the air thick with the cries of babies and the chatter of older children, and I felt like an intruder, a ghost, haunting the edges of their lives. By 13, I was out in the fields myself, working alongside the adults from dawn until dusk, my young back aching under the sun's merciless glare, my hands growing calloused and tough like old leather from wielding the hoe and picking crops. Post-war Italy was a land of chaos and desperation. Famine stalked the countryside, cities lay in rubble, and people rebuilt from the ashes with whatever scraps they could find. I scavenged through bombed-out ruins for anything salvageable, bits of metal to trade, forgotten cans of food, and survived on wild berries that stained my lips a deep purple, their tart juice a rare treat amid the hunger. Resilience? It wasn't a choice I made lightly. It was survival, pure and simple, the only way to keep breathing when every breath hurt. I learned to mend torn clothes with needle and thread under the dim light of a candle, to trade goods at the market with a sharp tongue, and to whisper fervent prayers to the stars for just a little more strength to carry on. The years blurred into one another like watercolors running on a canvas. At 18, in 1950, seeking better prospects, I left the village for the bustling city of Naples, where the streets teemed with life and opportunity amid the still visible scars of war. I found work in a noisy factory, assembling shoes, the repetitive clack of machines, a constant rhythm to my days, my fingers nimble but often pricked by needles. The city buzzed with a newfound hope, buildings rising from rubble like phoenixes, and it was there, amid the chaos, that I met love for the first time. Giovanni was a mechanic in a nearby garage, his hands perpetually stained with grease, but his smile, oh, it lit up the gloom like the sun breaking through clouds after a storm. He courted me with stolen moments of sweetness, long walks along the sparkling seafront where waves crashed against the rocks, sharing scoops of creamy gelato under the twinkling stars, his laughter echoing in my ears like music. Picture us in those heady days, young and full of fire, laughing together in a crowded market square, the air alive with the calls of vendors and the scent of fresh seafood. His arm would slip around my waist, pulling me close, and he'd whisper, "Elena, you're my anchor in this stormy world," his eyes sparkling with genuine affection. We married in 1953 in a simple ceremony at the local church, the bells ringing out like joyful promises echoing through the hills. Joy bloomed in our small apartment, cramped but ours, filled with dreams of a brighter future. Isabella arrived first in 1955, her tiny cries like the sweetest melody to my weary ears, followed by our son Marco 2 years later, his chubby fists waving as if ready to conquer the world. But love, as I've learned the hard way, is as fragile as a glass ornament, beautiful, yet so easily shattered. Giovanni worked long, grueling hours in the garage, breathing in toxic fumes from engines and paints that slowly poisoned his body from within. In 1965, the illness struck like a thief in the night. Lung disease, the doctors diagnosed with grave faces, a cruel legacy of his trade. He withered before my eyes over months of agony, his once strong frame reduced to frailty, racking coughs bringing up blood that stained the sheets. I nursed him tirelessly, all while working nights as a seamstress to keep food on the table, my own fingers pricked raw from endless stitching, the children clinging to my skirts with wide, frightened eyes. Envision that heartbreaking scene, our dim bedroom lit only by a flickering candle, shadows playing on the walls like ghosts, Giovanni's hand clasped weakly in mine, his breathing labored and shallow. "Take care of them, amore mio," he gasped, his voice a mere whisper. "You're stronger than you know, my Elena." I sobbed uncontrollably, tears falling onto his chest, begging, "Don't leave us, Giovanni. We need you here." But he slipped away quietly, like morning mist evaporating at dawn's first light, leaving me widowed at 33 with a mountain of debts piling up like storm clouds on the horizon. Sacrifice became the very definition of my existence in those dark years. I sold off our few precious valuables, my wedding ring, a cherished family heirloom, to buy bread and pay bills, and eventually moved back to the village where life was cheaper, though no less hard. I raised Isabella and Marco alone, teaching them their letters by the soft glow of lamplight after long days of work, mending their clothes with patches upon patches, hiding my own tears behind a mask of stoic resolve. "We survive, my darlings," I'd tell them night after night, my voice firm even as my heart cracked. "We survive because we must, for each other." Marco grew into an adventurous young man, tall and bold like his father, with a spirit that yearned for the open sea. Isabella was more thoughtful, her eyes reflecting the quiet wisdom she'd inherited from me. But tragedy, that relentless shadow, struck again in 1975. Marco, at 20, had joined a local fishing crew to help support us, his dreams filled with tales of the ocean's vast mysteries. One fateful stormy night, with winds howling like banshees and waves towering like mountains, the sea claimed their small boat in its merciless grip. Days later, bodies washed ashore on the rocky beach, battered and lifeless, his among them. I had to identify him at the morgue, his face oddly peaceful in death, as if he'd found some solace in the deep. The pain. It shattered me anew, a fresh fracture in a soul already pieced together with fragile glue. Isabella held me as I wailed to the heavens. Why? Why take him too after all we've lost? Yet, somehow, we endured, clinging to each other like lifelines in a raging sea. Isabella married young, to a kind-hearted man from the village who worked as a carpenter, his hands skilled like Giovanni's had been. And then you came into our world, Alex, in 2017, a wriggling bundle of pure hope and joy, your cries echoing through the house like a new beginning. But fate, ever cruel, wasn't done with us. Isabella's husband died tragically in a car crash just 2 years later, the twisted metal on a rainy road echoing the losses that had haunted my own life. Grief twisted her spirit like a vine choking a tree. She began to blame the village, its unchanging rhythms, the invisible chains of tradition and memory that she felt were holding her back. That's when the restlessness took root and grew, blooming into resentment, leading inexorably to that fateful rainy night when she left us behind, vanishing into the unknown. Now here we are, my precious child, sitting in this warm, nostalgic room as the evening deepens, your small hand in mine, a reminder of all that's good and enduring. My life has been a mosaic of broken pieces, glued together by sheer will and the occasional grace of love. Love burns so bright, but it's often fleeting, a flame snuffed out too soon. Loss is inevitable, carving deep canyons into our hearts that time can soften but never fully fill. Survival means rising each dawn, no matter how heavy the burden, wearing our scars as badges of honor earned through fire. And hope? Ah, hope is the quiet spark in your wide, innocent eyes as you hold my hand now. Listening to these old tales. Life's a fierce storm, Alex, but we learned to dance in the rain, to find beauty in the chaos. I was abandoned, yes, but in that void I found you, a gift beyond measure. That's my greatest lesson, etched from a lifetime of trials. Hold tight to what matters, love deeply without regret, and hope always, for dawn follows even the longest night,